And we're recording. How's everybody doing today? What's up, Ronnie Margolis? Sasha Thompson? What's everybody going? Everybody good? Good. Cheryl, how are you? The
Shireen,
Royal, Johnny Royal.
I miss you, Shireen.
I know, miss you, Shireen. Good seeing Shireen's face back here, everybody.
Yeah, it's good to be back, you guys. It's good to be back in our country.
In our country. I like doing that. In our country. Yes. You did some amazing things traveling outside this country. You go, girl. Most people talk about it. She actually does it. That's what's different about Shireen. I love it. All right. As everybody keeps popping in here, what's up, Raquel? Keegan, what's happening, my friend?
Not too much.
Good to see you guys. Let's tell me something good. Speaking of you, Shireen, I mean, you got some good news. I mean, tell us about your South African thing. All right, she froze. Look at it, she's frozen. I think she's frozen. Darn it. All right, somebody else. Tell me something good. Go for it, Leah. It's all you.
I hosted a very successful Easter egg hunt on Saturday. I had sent out a bunch of invitations to past clients, present clients, vendors. We had over 200 people show up.
What? Dang. I saw that on social media too. You took pictures of that. That is amazing.
Yeah, it's so fun.
Oh, so talk about client events, right? That was a client event. How challenging? Like, how much, if you might feel a little bit, was it extensive? How hard was it to put together? Like, I mean, was it worth the challenge? Tell me a little bit about that.
It was definitely worth the challenge. It's just me and my husband. I don't have an admin or anything helping. So I love to plan events. So it was fun for me. For somebody else that doesn't like it, it would be a pain in the neck. But it was a little expensive, but I always get a good return. So It was so fun. I love giving back. I love loving all my clients.
I love that. And they probably know that. It shows and shines through because that energy is amazing. So congratulations. Good for you.
Thank you.
And what a great turnout. 200 people. Absolutely remarkable. Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. Anybody else? Share me something good. Tell me something good. Come on, Shireen. I know you got something good, girl. Let's talk about South Africa.
I do, but there's a freaking blower in the yard over there. Can you guys hear it? Is it okay?
No blower. I don't hear a blower. I see you. You're frozen a little bit, but no blower. She freezes up a lot. I don't know why this platform doesn't work for her. It goes in and out for some odd reason. Don't know. Yep, there she goes again. All right. She'll pop back on again. Anybody else? Something good? Something good? Come on, y'all. Something's got to be good, you guys. Something.
Well, we got our CEO on the meeting, and I'm very excited about that and feel very fortunate. And to me, that's something damn good. So
there we go. It is absolutely good. That's exciting when we have people like this that come on here and join and share the growth of EXP. Shireen, you keep popping in and out. Are you there?
I'll try really quick. Okay, what I wanted to say is, yes, South Africa went amazing. We were there for almost the entire month. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
And yes, we talked to so many people, but we have 13 people that are completely, 3 of them are in the process. They're signing up, but the rest of them, and they all represent, some of them represent small offices. One of them represents a really large office, over 100 agents. We're going to tie into Brent and Jean going to South Africa this month on the 26th and 7th for a build event that Steve Johnston has never even been to build event. And he is mimicking and doing a hell of a job. Dylan, he's like you. I mean, he's just like, I can do this. Okay, I'm going to do this. So, yeah, he's doing it. And so we're plugging in some people that we have been talking to all over the South Africa. I'm telling you, we were everywhere. And so plugging them in, and it was literally working 12 plus hour days. But it was fantastic, super well worth it, and very exciting. So it was a great month, and I'm super excited about EXP right now. Like, seriously.
On fire. On fire. I love that. And like I said, this is an experience that most anybody on this page and this call can do, right? The ability to travel the world and create this business outside of your limits is crazy. And then she talks the talk and walks the walk. Love you for
Well,
that.
if I didn't have Michelle, I don't know what I've done. That girl knows her way around South Africa. She's born and raised there, and has a lot of really good connections. Like, our connections were ridiculous. So I want to make sure credit goes where it's due. Okay.
Yep, you're right. It's all about relationships, right?
Yeah,
It's all about
yeah.
relationships. She has mother, so absolutely. Good job. Dylan, jump in there, brother. I know you want to share some good news.
I have like humongous good news. So she's usually on. I don't think she's on today, but Justice Hang from our team here on the Big Island was recognized as a 30 under 30 for the National Association of Realtors. So I mean, just ridiculously huge, right? I mean, out of the million realtors in the country, and I think there was 300 applicants or nominees. One of our own is one of the 30, and I think she might be the only one from EXP there. I think there was 3 EXP agents that was nominated. So I'm not sure. One of them I'm sure didn't make it, and then I'm not sure about the other one. So yeah, just huge for our company, huge for our team, huge for Team Freedom. So if you're connected with her on social media, give her a shout out, congratulate her. She's an absolute killer, right? She did 63 transactions last year. She's 25 years old, and there's only 3 agents in the entire MLS. There's 1,500 agents in the MLS that did more than 60 transactions, and she's one of them. And she was number 1, 43 buyer side transactions, number 1 in the entire MLS for buyer side transactions. So she's going to be speaking at our Level Up event, 5 weeks away. So everybody's invited. I dropped the link in the chat, so everybody's invited. If you need an excuse to come to the Big Island in a month, come and join us. There's a great room rate. If you want to make a long weekend out of it, it's Mother's Day weekend. So if you want to pamper yourself for Mother's Day, come out to the Big Island. It's a great resort. This is going to be our 4th one, and then just keep getting better and better. So she and it's a whole day of speakers, 9 to 4, of just the best and brightest in the state, and from a couple speakers from the mainland. So come on out, join us.
I love it, man. Just a couple things I want to piggyback on real quick. That Justice Peng is brand new in this business too, right, Dylan? She's not been here for years.
This is her 4th year.
Fourth
year being licensed. Yeah.
Okay.
But I mean, last year was her 3rd year being licensed, right? Which she put all these numbers up. So I mean, I can't imagine what she's going to do this year.
Yeah. So yeah, it's like last year. So she's like her 3rd year producing all this stuff to get her to the level where she got the 30 under 30. So remarkable. And honestly, out there on the Big Island, geographically, it might be a little bit more challenging. Let's say somebody in the middle of Dallas, Texas, or somewhere where it's more populated. So yeah, all the things that you think in your head you could use as far as reasons why you couldn't do that level of business, she crushed them all and made them still happen. So rock star. I love it.
And she literally does it in her backyard. Like the population is probably 50,000, like in terms of like the geographic area where she does all that production. I mean, there's ones or twosies outside of that, but she's a neighborhood expert and just crushes right in her backyard.
Oh, I love it. I love it.
Yep.
And just to piggyback, his level up is awesome. Maybe we can get Gesing to come out to Hawaii again. Maybe do some level up with us in Hawaii.
We talked about it before, because Dylan, I do have a question. 65 transactions in Hawaii. What's the volume on that, if you were to guess?
Well, so she lives in an area where it's not a lot of the price points are low. So I think she did like 10 million in production. So I have agents on the west side of the island that do 8 or 9 transactions and do 15 million in production, right? So she lives in an area where you gotta turn and burn. So she does a really high volume, a lot of transactions for not a lot of volume.
What's Justine's last name?
Justice Peng.
Peng.
P-A-N-G.
Justice.
Yep.
Justice Peng. Okay, great. Thank you.
Awesome. What a great representation too for EXP and the caliber of level of agents we have here. Awesome.
Yeah,
Dylan,
Dylan, are you able to put that on Facebook? That's what I want to know, on Workplace.
Yeah, and actually, the main EXP page shared a post last week about the nominees, because they were down to the final 50, and then they just announced yesterday the final 30. So she made the final cut.
Nice.
Yep.
That's awesome. And a great example of leadership out there, Dylan. You can't forget about that, my friend. You were leading the pack out there and making it happen. So
I'm going to share just this is an attraction lesson, or this thing that I take to heart. Right? Is I clearly remember, I've told this story at these events, but I clearly remember I was in our conference room, my brother and a couple of our agents on our leadership team, and we were generating a ton of leads on the east side of the island. And I'm like, you guys, we gotta get a few more agents on the east side. Let's start brainstorming some people that we can call and recruit on the east side. And so we're talking about this, and literally my phone rings and it's Justice. And she's like, yeah, I've been following you on social media, see what you guys are doing. I'm interested in EXP. And they literally joined like 2 weeks. Her and another icon agent, 2 of them joined within like 10 days of that phone call. And the lesson learned was it's just about intention, right? Like if we don't put energy into it, sometimes the energy we put in doesn't necessarily return exactly on the task that we're doing, but it returns in a different way. And that was a exact reason. I mean, we're just putting that energy into the universe that we needed East Side agents. And she came and she's since brought on like another 5 or 6 agents. So I mean, she's building the team there, and we're really taking over on the East Side because of her leadership, and Ivory's who came with her. They're kind of 2 friends that are just rock stars.
Rock stars. It is true, 100%. It's about your energy and what you're doing. The right space and energy will attract more energy. That's why they call it law of attraction. So awesome, brother. Thank you for sharing that. Let's get, if we don't have anybody else, I actually want to honor Jason. Had a really hard time. I want to make sure I honor his time because he's got a lot going on. Very, very grateful that he even carved out this time because he's running 100 different directions by every means of the word. So, Jason, I'd love to share with you right now at this point, jump in our meeting. For those who don't know Jason Gesing, he is one of the beginnings one with Glenn Sanford. They created EXP. All I can say is I love Jason's energy. I love his demeanor. I love the way he speaks. I could listen to Jason speak all day long because he just has this eloquent way of putting things into perspective. But as you can see, how EXP has grown is because of people like Jason Gesing and Glenn Sanford, these amazing individuals that have been like pioneering this thing and driving EXP to where it's at. So without further ado, Jason, I want to let you take the stage. I know you are very time constrained today. So thank you again. Appreciate it. We're humbled to have you and grateful for you to in your presence today. So take it away.
No pressure there, Chris. You speak to me, listen to me speak for, people will be dropping off here in about 90 seconds. I think we've discovered pretty quickly that maybe I've been overbuilt. And Ronnie, I'll just tell you, I'm thrilled to be on with you too, and I'm going to answer every question I can. I am no longer in the CEO role as of January 3rd, though. So I've moved into a different role, Chief Industry Relations Officer for World Holdings, which is really nice because it allows me to pursue some of the other things that we're doing that I've been passionate about, in particular Verbella and the development of Frame and some of the different ways in which those tools can be used. And I'm really excited about it because I think we're just on the the starting point where enterprise is going to start to use the metaverse for some of the same reasons that we've seen, which is that you can really disrupt your competition in just about any industry if you approach it the right way and you put the service professional first. So I've been really trying to sort of, corral all of the folks who are in leadership, whether at the federal, nationally, the state level, the local level, and really trying to figure out how we can be of service to the industry and how the industry can view us as a source of service and advice, because we've been through a lot of what brokerage owners are going to go through right now. We've been through things like cutting the footprint, lowering our operating costs, and really doing things that allow us to drive through a down market. And I think there are opportunities for us to be helpful to others in that regard, without having the primary motivation be, hey, come on over to EXP, right? Like really, I think everybody's heard from somebody that's an EXP agent that wants them to be an EXP agent, and I think sometimes that may be the narrative or the perception in the minds of other people in the industry, because that's all they hear about. But there's a lot of we can do, and there's a lot of help we can offer the industry as a whole, and I think we genuinely want to do that. And also that includes what programs, what offerings do we have or could we create that might be beneficial to other agents, whether they're with EXP or not, right? But still benefit the company. And you think about healthcare, for instance. Is there a day and time where we'll be able to offer our healthcare offering to people that aren't with EXP, and not for the same benefit or discount, but so those are some of the things that I'm thinking about, and it's great because it allows us to be in contact with our agents. I was at 2 of the regional rallies over the last couple of weeks. Well, I don't know how many of y'all were in Cabo. How was Cabo? Chris, did you go?
No, I didn't go to Cabo. I wasn't in Cabo this year.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what. You said at the beginning you get one more day. I get one more day too. We all do. And there's nowhere I'd rather be than here talking to you guys. And it's been a labor of love over the last 13 years. And one of the funniest moments in my time at EXP, I just have to tell you, I don't know if you remember this, Chris, but the first time I ever went out to Roseville and was spending my first day with Brent Gove. And thought it'd be just like spending a day with anybody else. You might have 2, 3, 4 meetings, and then you're going to get your work done between. And I discovered immediately, this 6 a.m. to 11 p.m. thing. And I remember being out there with Frederick, and we showed up for lunch one day, and Brent sort of pitched it like, okay, we're done with our morning meetings. Now you get to go and have some lunch. We get to have some fun. We drive over to Seasons, and the first thing he says as we get out of the car is, okay, now there are going to be a couple of agents in there, you know, and it was just, it was like that. But the funniest story was we were at some place in that mall or that shopping pavilion, Chris, where the Italian restaurant is, and there's a Ruth's Chris, I think.
Mhm.
And
Yep.
And Brent took us to one meeting at this particular restaurant that had the front door, and then it had a side door out back that took you out onto the deck. And I remember we went into that restaurant, the front door, went out, met our person out the side door, met you and whoever you had with you.
Yeah.
For a meeting, right? And the meeting ends, and we're on the deck, we're outside, and Brent's like, okay, we're going. We walk out. We don't go back in the building. We walk out right out to the deck, and you take off. And the next thing you know, Brent takes us and pulls us right back in the front door again. I mean, it was just like, you know, the funniest thing. But you have really embodied to me. I mean, you know, given everything you went through during COVID, you know, you've never wavered in your commitment to the company or in your energy or your kindness. And I just know every time I see you that you're smiling, and I can learn a lot from that. So, but
Appreciate
you know,
that.
in terms of you know this today, I mean, I'm happy to answer any questions. I'm happy to share, you know, any bit of the last 13 years that people might be interested in. I don't really have an agenda, but I'm just glad to be here, and I'm happy to go in whichever direction you think makes the most sense.
Totally. I think a couple things. One would be, go ahead, Shireen, knock your stuff out. Go for it.
Actually, I wanted to know about the property management. Not that I'm going to do it, but I keep hearing rumblings, and maybe an update on that.
Yeah, well, I've heard rumblings on that too, Shireen. I don't have an update for you, but obviously I think, you know, throughout the course of our time, you know, obviously we haven't had property management. We've had an addendum. We've asked people to keep it separate, completely separate because of the liability. And even doing that didn't save us at all times. I remember we ran into an issue back in like 2014 where one of our agents was doing property management on the side and absconded with some deposit monies, and we had an investigation with the real estate commissioner. And so there's just a ton of risk. But obviously, I mean, it's a great way in which to build a business. It's a great way in which to feed your business, you know, particularly in downtime. So I hope we're getting close. But, you know, the conversations in the past have always been around, you know, how do we find somebody that really knows how to do this, does it well, and does it nationally, right? But, you know, I have not been part of the conversations lately, but I have heard the same rumblings, and I've got my fingers crossed. So.
Yeah, that's a big liability situation there that most brokerages don't really want to get into at all. But I'm glad we're actually entertaining the conversation, which is cool. There's a lot of realtors out there, broker owners who are part of a property management division that would love to be part of EXP, but that's obviously kind of a hindrance. So it'd be great if we can find something at some point. I'd love to hear, again, maybe share everybody who doesn't really know you, Jason, kind of, you know, you were with Glenn kind of at the beginning. You started this when there was like probably under 2,000 agents in the beginning. What you built out to this point, you've had several titles here. But you've been remarkable at literally creating this opportunity for EXP to develop what it is today. Maybe share with some people some of the things that I'd love to hear what your new title is, and the transposition between that is like, what are your roles and what are you working on as far as for the future for EXP?
Yeah, so if you go back 13 years, it was I think January of 2010 when I joined. And I've had my license since 2002. I had the managing broker credential in Massachusetts, New Hampshire, and Maine. And I was the first person into EXP east of Arizona. And at the time, I was also a practicing attorney, and a miserable one at that. I've probably shared that with you, Chris. I've been, you know, licensed to practice law in a couple of states for just as long. Same day, actually. I filled out the paperwork for the broker credential. And I love this business. You know, I loved it back then. It kept me sane because, you know, I was going into the office, driving into downtown Boston every day, hour and a half each way. Wasn't seeing my kids for days in a row. I never met my dad. So this was like an unsustainable, you know, situation for me. And I also had a bunch of other bad stuff going on, like if so many other people, because we're, you know, the foreclosures and short sales. I mean, things were just such a mess. My wife had a foreclosure. I mean, it was a tough time. But when I met Glenn, you know, it was just serendipitous. I was introduced to him by somebody else that I was close with in the business. And the next thing I knew I was an avatar inside of the first version of EXP World. And EXP at the time had about 27 agents. And they were all in sort of the 4 states that we were in, which was like Washington, Arizona, California. And I can't even remember what the other one was, but but you know, this idea, I think I was coming from a unique perspective because I was living the misery of somebody who had to pay for brick and mortar office costs and redundant staffing costs. And I wasn't even aware of it at the time, right? You know, I mean, you think about, well, you know, if I got this nice fancy piece of artwork on the wall here, the client's paying for that, right? You always just think about the fact that the client's paying for that. And what Glenn did when I found out about EXP and why he was approaching the business in this way, you know, he made it clear to me, sort of connected the dots without saying it, that I was actually the one that was paying for it, right? Because I was spending more hours at my desk rather than with my family. My clients were paying for it. They were paying more per hour, but I also had to bill many more hours, right? And when I came over here, the real estate industry was going through the same thing. You had people that were in a down market taking their footprint and they were, you know, doubling it, even though people had already, you know, the pattern of not coming into the office because the business wasn't coming into the office had already started and was well underway, right? So there were these decisions that people were making that were head scratchers. And, you know, people like, you know, often think, oh, EXP, metaverse, virtual, you know, all of this. It's not that we're anti-office at all. It's just we're sort of anti-telling agents that they've got to subsidize decisions that they have no control over, right? In terms of, you know, this much space, this much rent, this location for this period of time. You know, would rather put that money and those decision-making, that decision-making authority back in the hands of the agent. And so, you know, that's sort of how I got started into this. And the weirdest thing is, you know, as soon as, I mean, we're Christina and I hope I'm not boring everybody, but Christina and I were in such desperate straits. We actually, she's a lawyer too. We applied for public assistance because I had left my law job. We had 2 kids. We had no health care. We had 2 cars, one of which didn't have a functional handle on the driver's side door. So you actually had to climb in the passenger side. So we got denied because we have 2 cars. And it was the lowest, most humbling moment of my life. You know, I grew up with nothing. I didn't, you know, raised by my mom. But this was like, you know, after all of this and after all the work, and I've been working all my life, and it was just the lowest point. But when you're at your lowest point, it sort of kicks you into overdrive a little bit, right? Your survival instinct really kicks in. And I just started doing things I had never done before, like picking up the phone and trying to sell somebody on something. And the more I spent time at EXP and got into the metaverse and was, you know, doing things that non-tech people could do and add value, right? I would edit the website copy. I would do the legal work, you know, here and there for these things. And, but I discovered that I actually really like sales, you know, if I believe in what I'm selling. And it, you know, for me, it was different than believing in a house that I might sell to a client, right? This was fundamentally a light. I could see very, very quickly that this made a heck of a lot of sense. And if it worked, you know, you're going to have a lot of people making a lot of money. And so, you know, why in the world wouldn't it work? And I started picking up the phone, and I probably every 30 calls, I got 29 no's, right? And, you know, you just keep getting back up, and nobody had heard of EXP. And then I had my first success with a group down in North Carolina in the Triad region, Tom Somerville and Marion Stafford. They had been RE/MAX franchisees for 16 years, you know, Hall of Famers in the local board. And they got it. And they came over with their 23 agents. And it was like, you know, for the first time, my wife said, okay, maybe you're not crazy bouncing around with this little, you know, funny cartoon head and all this. And from that point, I just kept going. And David Gagnon, I don't know how many people know David or know of David, but you know, I pushed David. He'll tell the story. I sort of butt dialed him on my second call, and that's how I got him. Just sort of, you know, quickly pivoting on that call. You know, was very involved with getting Gene over here. I got to know Gene every day from November 14th of 2014 right up until the day he joined, April 23rd of 2015. Absolutely a tipping point for this company, both in terms of growth, but also, you know, moment I met Gene in Austin at a hotel for breakfast, I mean, within 10 minutes, I just knew I loved the guy, and we were playing basketball within 60 minutes in his bathroom. And so, you know, those are sort of the things that, you know, you just get to experience and live through. And there's countless others. And I was just talking to somebody about how I wish I had journaled for the last, you know, 13 years, and I didn't. So anyway, that's, you know, that's really how I got here. I've had the CEO role twice, I think from 16 to 18, and then 19 to 23, late 19 to just the first of this year. And it's just been an absolute joy. And I've just happened to be lucky enough to have been here at the right time and to have met the right people. And I've been meeting the right people ever since. I mean, the thing I love about this, you know, when I was a lawyer, I'd sit in an office all day for 16 hours a day, and nobody wanted to talk to me because I was billing, you know, for my time. And everybody else was billing for their time, so they wouldn't come in and talk to you. Would come in the morning, everybody just sort of grumbled under their breath. You know, it was like, yeah, good morning. And then there was something else they would say that you couldn't quite hear after that. Nobody Nobody wanted to be there. And then I came over and I started to spend 16 or 18 hours a day in a room that was exactly the same size, albeit in my house. And I felt like I had these people all over the place that I was talking to and I was in the same room with. And that was absolutely transformative for me. And that's what's got me so excited about when I think about other industries that could really benefit from our approach to the business. But where people miss the mark, because you see other companies that'll use the metaverse and they realize a ton of savings, but they take the savings and they keep it for themselves or their shareholders, and that's where they miss the mark. That's where you don't cause disruption because you're not taking it and pouring back into the service professional. And as a result, you're stunting your own growth. So Ronnie, go ahead.
In the few months since you stepped away, maybe looking at it from a different perspective, what do you see are maybe some improvements in the company, and what do you see our big challenges are as we grow? Because a lot of times when we go to these Brent events, or at least I had my opportunity to go to one in February, we talk about 500,000 agents, and of course we're in an industry that's sort of flattened and people are leaving. So improvements and where you see us, what our challenges might be.
Yeah, so I think the 500,000 agents, that probably will be a little challenging just because things have changed so much from when the time at which Glenn made that announcement. I think the improvements, if I really look at where I think we've improved, we hired a guy last year by the name of Patrick O'Neill. That name may be familiar to you, but he's our Chief Operating Officer. Previously, he had some real estate experience, but he also oversaw the largest airline logistics company in the United States, maybe even the world, right? So he had, thousands and thousands of planes going every which way. And his job was to make sure they were on time. And, clearly somebody that could get down in the weeds, really solve complex problems. And I think that's what we had needed for such a long time, so when I see improvements and I do see the updates and I see what the things are that they're working on, and some of them maybe aren't immediately noticeable in a really conspicuous way. But they're working towards things that either will be obvious if they're not already. And I think in particular, you're going to see that on the onboarding side. And, I think on the payment side, and somebody on the call may disagree with me, but I think we've really, really, done a great job getting that ship straight. Amelie Caroz is a phenomenal leader for our transaction and payment processing group. So I think we've done really, really well there. I think we're starting to see some of the productivity pick up in some of the global markets. And, obviously that's going to take some time for those, markets to develop and mature a little bit. But Michael tells me it's typically about 18 months before you launch a market, from the time you launch a market to the point where it's, cash flow profitable. So I think that's a really encouraging sign, Ronnie, because, hopefully, depending on how things go here over the next 12 months economically, it'll provide some sort of hedge against whatever may happen in one particular market, right? And so, it's great to see that the model is really sticking. It's resonating with people in other markets. And what's really cool is that they like being part of this broader family. And that was always the part that I wondered about. Would people actually come into the metaverse? Would they use the world? Now, you may all be sitting there saying, I haven't been in there in like 9 months, right? And that, if that's the case, I would encourage you to get in there, even if it just means a second monitor over here with your avatar just hanging idly in the campus while you're working on a contract, right? Because that's how you meet the referral partner that's going to feed your business for the next 3 years. And it happens all the time. And I see these people at the live events at EXPCon, somebody in Texas developing a really strong referral relationship with somebody in Southern California. I mean, I had lunch with these two people. So it really does happen. I would encourage you to get in there. But if you're not going to get in there, you should know and take comfort in the fact that we've got, thousands of people that are going in there every single day. And that was always the mystery to me. Now, challenges, for me, it's not so much a challenge, but if I look back and I say, what do I wish I had accomplished that I didn't? I would say that it's probably, I look at how amazing people are putting together collateral to help grow this company, right? Whether it's Brent, whether it's Chris, whether it's, Dave Gagnon, Mitch Verbeck. I mean, everybody's out there and they're creating collateral, right? And they're creating great, great, great stuff. And I think I just wish that we had sort of gotten it right in a period of time where we had provided more of that on the attraction side, right? Really sort of a, here's your go, here's your kit. Step 1, boom, send this to your prospect. Step 2, do this. Step 3, contact so-and-so and they'll get on the, and we had eyes on it. We were thinking about it, what that digital journey is so that the prospect can really go 90% of the way through, answering questions, self-educating, that by the time they're, to the point where they need somebody, they're pretty excited and pretty fired up. And I know we're still working on that stuff, but that's really what excites me, because I really want this to be something revenue share. You want everybody to be able to participate in this, right? You want the agent. I mean, you want justice.
Yeah.
So, right, doing 65 deals. I mean, she doesn't have time to be picking up and making phone calls and trying to get agents, but she really damn well better have as much of an opportunity as anybody else, right? And so what can we do as a company to make sure that the infrastructure is there to help downlines or uplines as they're helping her, even get one person, because, at the end of the day, one person can be $2,000 a year, and that's a lot of money, and it's a lot of money in a down market. And so I really look forward to watching as we continue to see more and more, a greater percentage of our agents continue to go ahead and participate in some, it's at some level. The other challenges, obviously, you can probably imagine. I mean, there are competitors, copycats now that are out there trying to do what we do and making claims. And there's no concern, because we keep seeing these folks that leave and go to Real, for instance, they come back, right? And so I'm not worried about the quality or the comparison of the model or the comparison of the company or the comparison of the experience. I just worry about us being able to get the right message out there and make sure our agents understand the difference, right? Because there's a difference between real and authentic, and I think our agents can figure it out as long as they're not being misled. So that's a long answer.
I love it though. That was awesome.
Thanks.
I'd love to go back. You mentioned that you wish, if you went back, that you would have created something a little bit more streamlined for the agent attraction piece. And then you said at the very end of that, you are working on that. Is that like a curriculum or like a layout that you're going to create for every agent?
Hold on. I don't want to get myself in trouble here.
No, just curious.
I'm not working on it. I think they're working on it, but I don't exactly know,
Gotcha.
what it's like. But for me, it was always the type of thing that if I were an agent, I stumbled on our website and I click a button, maybe you're popping a likeness of you, Chris, is popping out of the screen with a big smile on your face saying, hello, what are you most interested in? Is it our relocation program? Is it just increasing your transaction flow? Is it helping grow your team, right? Is it transitioning out of all the burdens and aggravations and compliance risks that exist in being a brokerage owner, right? And I think, very interactive, and but it takes a lot. It takes a lot. And
Totally.
but having said that, I mean, we did do some things that I'm really proud of too. I mean, it was, I want to say December of either 21, or it might have even been December of 20, I think, that I hired Don Conciatori. And that was really that decision was driven by what was happening with the migration to remote work because of COVID, right? Mm-hmm. And this idea that there were going to be a lot more people now, whether, it's stuck, writ large or not, there'll be a lot more people now that could live where they wanted, work where they wanted to live, rather than having to live where they had to work. And so we hired Dawn. She was one of the only people I'd ever come across that had built a relocation program nationally before. She did it for Atlantic and Pacific, which was what do they call themselves today? It doesn't matter, but they've been around in the REO space for a long time. So she had ability to stand up REO, ability to stand up relocation. And my thinking all along was, whatever's going to happen here, we want to make sure our agents are in a position where they can be where the business is. And it stood to reason at the time that relocation for sure, and depending on how things shake out, REOs. And I'm told anecdotally that those numbers are starting to tick up as well. So what I would say to every single person on the call, and I can't tell if there's 29 or 51, because I know somebody's got 21 others on here, but if you haven't sort of explored what Revenos is, which is sort of the moniker for relocation, REO, lead referral opportunities, I really hope you will. And even if you don't need it, but you get somebody on your team or in your group who's struggling a little bit, that doesn't have business, get them in there, get them certified, because some of these lead sources are closing at a rate of like 90%. I mean, really, really, really good. And I think it's a way to keep people, moving and continuing to develop and grow and build a business at a time where it might be a little challenging.
Awesome. Anybody else got a question? Joanna? Oh, Revos. Was it called Revos, Jason?
Revenos.
Revenos.
All right, I'll put it in the chat here. And if you go into workplace chat or workplace and just do a search for that, it should pop up there.
Perfect.
If you find that, you'll find relocation, you'll find REO, and I just can't say enough about the work they've done. And I think it's a great opportunity for everybody.
Do you have any visibility into programs like that or express offers? How those programs do in the islands if they're active here? I know a lot of the lending programs we have, or even some of the healthcare stuff, seems to be limited in Hawaii. Do you have any visibility into that?
When it comes to Revenos, Ronnie, I don't. But it makes sense to me. So I don't know why I didn't think of that, but it does make sense to me that it might be a little less robust, some of those opportunities in Hawaii. But I can certainly inquire, and I will.
I like to bring up a subject, obviously, that when we had Glenn on here a few weeks back, I think one of the comments that people were talking about in direct connection with age and attraction was a challenge, and maybe it might be something that you might, I don't know if you've ever, Glenn, shared it with you, but a lot of concerns that people were having on the age and attraction side was how a lot of people are doing a lot of their recruiting in the attraction piece, but they're not really following up, taking care of their team kind of thing. They're just trying to get numbers of people. They kind of ghost them after that. And Glenn had made a few comments in reference to that of like trying to figure out how to waste it, because that's obviously not the culture and the ethics that we want with EXP. It's not what it's about. But it was a concern because a lot of times I think you see it across the board. A lot of agents are just in different parts of the U.S. or different parts of everywhere recruiting people just randomly, or have people call, recruit them, and then really not doing anything to support them at all, and they're kind of left alone on an island. Any thoughts on that, Jason, as far as anything you've heard on it, or you've maybe?
Yeah, so the big problem there is that and I can remember when we first started to get a little bit of traction, there were people who were not agents who would get licensed because they saw this as the mother of all network marketing opportunities, right?
Mm-hmm.
And those people generally don't do well. And what happens is they go for the numbers and they do sort of abandon once they get the number. But the worst part is that they're ill-informed. And so I remember one time we had somebody going out there, and I forget what it was. It was like, I think they quoted like a $36,000 cap, right? And it's like, where in the world did you ever come up with that? I mean, so I think over time, both the people that are, sort of view the opportunity that way, they've probably heard from others, just word of mouth that, unless you know what you're doing, unless you know the business, it's really kind of hard to attract agents, because agents want to attract to other agents. If you don't know a lick about the industry, you're not really going to be able to attract people. But I would say the consequence of abandoning people you bring in can be significant. The first time we opened Toronto up in Ontario, I had to go through that process with the paperwork and everything, and the real estate council. It was a nightmare. It was a nightmare for me. Ended up being a nightmare for the guy that came up and opened it. But he came on board, and he was forgotten. He was completely forgotten. And we did the best we could to try and pitch in and build around him. And there were, but our stuff was mostly, okay, let's make sure we're not violating any rules, that we've got the commission trust account set up, that we've got the operating account set up, but the gentleman ultimately left. We had to reopen Ontario years later, and with the right leadership. And so I mean, that's a significant impact if you're the sponsor there, because this person was, respected, had some pedigree, and I think probably could have done good things. So yes, I've seen it quite a bit. And I think, the other thing is, it's, and I'm sure you do this, but it's incumbent upon the leaders in these groups, to really emphasize the importance of checking in every once in a while. And people just aren't, lost in a field somewhere, because especially if you're not getting in the world, if your folks aren't getting in the world, they're going to feel like they're on an island somewhere.
Yeah, for sure. I actually, that's a real statement too, because I've actually had people reach out several times, ask me questions about certain things. And my first question is always, have you gotten into the world yet? Have you asked them yet? Like, have you walked into your office yet? And they're like, oh, I haven't even downloaded my world yet. Yeah. It's what it is, right? We do. And
it's understandable to me. The first time I saw it, even when I joined, I had a business partner at the time, and I said to him, Evan, you can go in there, I'll be out here, doing it. So it's like, you look at it, and if you're not familiar with it, you're like, what's this wacky thing? It's just the craziest thing. And that feeling has never left me. I used to have an office that was over by where the speedboats are on campus. And I remember, every once in a while I'd sit there, I'd look up, and there'd be a boat going by, or there'd be somebody running by. And it took a long time for me to, just not to laugh out loud when I would see that, because it was just so crazy. But I'll tell you, I would never, ever work any other way again.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I recently was in there myself too, and the build out is like tremendous. Like it looks like a whole nother world in there, like truly a whole nother city. It's
Yeah.
crazy.
And
Great.
another thing I'll say about it, guys, is, if you haven't checked out Frame, which is the other platform that we own, that's mobile, much more mobile capable. Gabe Baker, I've been involved in some conversations even late last year with some major companies that maybe are breaking ground on a new type of development, whether it's co-working, co-living combined or whatever. They're venturing into something they've not done before, and they're ready to break ground, but they want to market the properties, and they've got a floor plan and they've got some photos, some artist renderings. We can recreate the physical footprint. Now, before anybody goes and contacts Gabe, I don't know that this is like an offering yet that we're doing, but the capabilities there, right? So you imagine whether it's on the commercial side, you get somebody that's prospectively going to move their organization across the country, they're looking for office space, or you get somebody that, again, the shovel hasn't hit the ground, but you need to help them have the vision so they can realize the value of buying pre-construction. So if you imagine, without them getting up from their desk, you can bring them in and right down to the finest detail on those artist renderings. You can show them what that building's going to look like and what it's going to feel like to be in it. Or you can show them what that office space will look like once it's built out, right? Once you complete the build out. So I think there's a lot of fun stuff that can happen there, and we've been at the leading edge on it, and we'll continue to do so.
Nice. Anybody else have any questions or anything else for him? I know I want to make sure you had to be somewhere exactly at 12. So we got about 15 minutes, but anybody else have anything they want to shoot at Jason? You have him here. His attention's there. Dylan, go for it, brother.
Hey, Jason, I just wanted to ask about KV Core and technology. Is that something you're involved in? And if there are any plans for that to evolve in the future? I saw they bought, Follow Up Boss, and and I guess the point of the question is, I think it's pretty understood. I mean, KV Core is a little bit of an older database technology, and there's some capabilities that are not there, in terms of CRM and compared to other CRMs. So just wondering if there's any plans.
Yeah. So I mean, I stay somewhat observant of it, right? So when the Boomtown acquisition happened, I mean, my suspicion is that those platforms will start to fade away now that they've been acquired, right? And I think Sync, there's a lot of stuff going on over there, I'm told. So I don't know that there's that many players left right at the moment, right? You've got Chime, I mean, you've got others, but real estate specific, I don't know how many of those are left or are going to sort of make it through all this. I do know that they're continuing to evolve the product, and I know that Glenn's very passionate about it. He's on top of it. I was involved when they first came over with a guy by the name of Brian Hoyleman, who I still keep in touch with, and he keeps a pretty good eye on the state of the industry and lead gen platforms and CRM. And he was with Inside Real Estate for years, and Conversion before it was acquired by Inside, and he still swears by the platform. So I think there's if there's anything, my observation maybe, I don't know how accessible and available some of the folks over there are when people run into issues, but I don't know, so I probably shouldn't say any more about that. But I think a lot of times it's just that's why we got agents like Sylvia Dana out in Michigan, who just on a whim decided she was going to master the platform and start teaching classes on it. There's a lot of people that want to help folks with KV Core here, but beyond that, Dylan, I'm afraid I'm kind of useless. I'm sorry.
All good.
Thanks.
Not a complaint. We're power users of KV Core, so I mean, it's just I want to stay ahead of it and not get that objection that that there's some stuff that other stuff does and see other people and see people spend money on outside CRMs when it's not necessary.
So if you want, reach out to me, send me a private chat, and I'd be happy to connect you with Brian at any point. He's not, like I said, he's not with the company anymore, but he can give you a pretty good observation as to what the state of that landscape is.
Cool. Thank you.
There.
Jason, was there when you guys acquired Frame, what was kind of the thinking there in terms of adding to the EXPI World Holdings platform? Was there some idea about migrating the world that we work into that platform? Is it just a separate kind of business aspect?
I think, first of all, I don't believe we acquired it. I think Gabe built it from the ground up, so it's been kind of cool to watch this thing just sort of take shape and form from the roots. I think one of the things about it, Ronnie, is that you truly can go in with your phone and see the avatars and move around, whereas that's a little bit tougher in the world. I think right now, though, in terms of where the world is at versus Frame, I mean, we figured out obviously how to get 25,000 people attending an event like shareholders during COVID, right? And so you got to make sure that experience is good, just like everything else with the company. We focus on the agent experience, and I just think Frame's not ready yet for us to even have those really serious discussions yet about whether we would ever migrate. For personally, I'll be in Verbella for the rest of my life as long as they're around. I love it. It works for me, and I think on an enterprise level at the moment, I think it's the best thing out there.
Awesome. Joanna, you had a question. Go ahead.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Jason, for being here. First of all, are you using our CRM or do you use a different CRM?
I am not using a CRM now. In addition to not journaling, Joanne, this is really, really embarrassing.
It's okay. No, it's.
I don't really have a very healthy database. I am a organizational mess, and it's something I'm working on, and it's something I have to work on. But I'm just being honest with you.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that. And yes, as we are here, are there any plans, on creating an app that we can share with our clients, like our own personal app?
You know what? Let me find out on that one for you. I'm gonna write. Let me just take a picture.
Thank you. Thank you. That's it.
I don't think I'm being weird here by taking a photo, but I just want to make sure I follow up on this. Oops. And Ronnie, I'm going to find out about the islands. Okay.
And I think about KV Core, as kind of your brain. I mean, there's a lot of power in there, and a lot of it we're not using. So that's what I explain to people. You know what, KV Core, make it what you want it to be. Dig into the areas that you want to be best at and help it work for you. Kind of like our brain. Same thing. There's a lot in there. Yeah.
Yep. Absolutely.
Got to find it.
Well, that's the problem with realtors. We're actually going 100 miles an hour in 3 different directions that we don't really have that headspace, if it's not important, to really dig into KV Core, especially if it's not your wheelhouse. If you're like a digital marketer, SEO, techie person, great. I'm not either, Jason, so I'll raise my hand at that too. I'm not the person. I use KV Core just to respond to my team, but that's about it. I don't really know any other extent of it other than that. And I actually had it when it was conversion back when I was at Keller Williams. And even then, my admin ran it. I didn't run it. I had no idea what to do. I had to ask her all the time. So it's just kind of how we work.
And I want to put a shout out real quick to Brandon Birch. I know Vanina knows too. This guy knows KV Core inside and out. And if you just want somebody to really help you out, you have to pay him. But it's Vanina, you think it's worth it?
Yeah, he helped me too.
Yeah, I mean, he's really helpful.
He saved me. Yes, totally.
So if you need his contact, call me, guys. He's very good. He knows it inside and out.
It's Brandon Birch, Joanna.
What about the idea of just like we're working on streamlining the onboarding or streamlining, sort of the step-by-step, that you might hear at a Brent event of all these resources for KV Core, all the different people around and kind of what their specialty is so that agents know that, kind of like Curbio, they'll do upgrades and stuff to your house. They've got all these vendors.
Yeah.
What if as a company we provided that?
I think, I mean, it'd be difficult for us to sort of take a group of agents and say, okay, these guys are the official folks for KV Core without KV Core saying the same thing.
Yeah.
Right. But I think if you go into workplace, unless they've deleted the groups, there are some groups that are really self-organized. Sylvia Dana out of Michigan has another one, but there are some groups I believe where you can find exactly who those folks are and how they feel about the platform and what they're able to share. It's a great idea, and we probably haven't done it as well or as tightly as we could, but I do think that information's out there.
Yeah, and we got Kelly in our group, guys. I mean, reach out to me if you want to connect. I mean, that's why we do what we do on KV Core, because I got somebody on the team that sets all that stuff up, and you can pay her to do your stuff too, or do consulting. I mean, we can do anything anybody else can do. So,
is she still doing those weekly meetings, Dylan, that you can sign up for?
For the team, yeah. And then I mean, we're working on some stuff. She's on some courses and other things, but I mean, she's available. She just spent 2 weeks on Maui with our team there, building them out and doing long 3-hour one-on-one sessions with them. So we got that capability locally for all the Hawaii people.
Awesome. All right. Well, we got 8 minutes left. Jason, I know you said you had to be somewhere exactly at 12.
I do, and my phone's pinging right now.
I know. So
Listen, Chris, I love you. I've always loved you. Anything I can do for you, let me know. And I hope I see everybody at Shareholders. It's going to be great. So
yeah, Dylan's gonna be on
Thank you,
stage.
Jason. Thanks so
Thank you.
much.
I
Thanks,
know.
guys.
Brother. Appreciate you guys. Always humbled.
Thank you so much.
Thanks so
All
much.
right, guys. Hey, I see you all again next week, same time, same channel, with amazing speakers we got. Don't forget EXP Explained tomorrow. Thursday, every Thursday. And plug in scripts on Monday, y'all. Scripts are great. Probably one of the most underrated skill sets that most people don't think is important, but is super important every Monday. So 8, 11, and 2 scripts on Monday. Print out the stuff on the Google Classroom. The sheets are there. The scripts are there. And we'll re-roll them over. So I would only suggest have some Bluetooth earbuds that you can get on your computer with so you can be mobile, because you got to kind of stand up and walk around when we do our script taking. But yeah, other than that, you guys, I love you all tremendously. And anything you guys need, man, for sure, let me know. But you guys go crush it and have an amazing week. All right. See y'all.